Okay, Modern Marketing TV viewers, we're still in San Francisco, and we have no one else than Sean Ellis, the Godfather of Growth Hacking, with us. And Sean was so friendly to make a little bit of time to answer some questions. Hey, Sean, thanks for
Hey,
making
Yannick,
time.
thank you for spending some time with me.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome. First question. What is for you the main takeaway of the Growth Hackers Conference 2019?
I think I'm still processing it myself. We just literally ended 5 minutes ago. But I think the main takeaway is that that people, you saw it in a couple of the presentations, that people want to get beyond sort of the hype of just, kind of fancy names and down to what does it actually mean? How does it translate to delivering value to customers? And how do you make sure that it's not just sort of fleeting growth that you're driving, but instead lasting growth that you really drive through understanding customer value and delivering a lot more of it?
Okay, amazing. Yeah, if we put this in perspective, you've been organizing this conference for several years now, and you coined the term growth hacking in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But what is, according to you, the biggest shift in growth hacking over the last years?
Yeah, even probably from my own evolution of thinking, when I coined the term, I was definitely thinking of it more from the perspective of who I wanted to hire for the startups that I was leaving the growth role in. And so it was very startup oriented, one person oriented, a growth hacker. And that over time, I've been able to kind of evolve my thinking about how do you do it at scale. A lot of that from studying companies like Facebook that have grown to hundreds or thousands of people on the growth team itself and a company-wide culture of growth. And so, and now I think that the evolution where I am now is how do you go from, if you didn't implement this when you were a startup, is it possible, or are you just going to be left behind? And so I'm pretty fascinated by the whole challenge of how companies that have been around for a while can adopt and leverage the growth hacking approach that's been so effective for startups.
Yeah, indeed. And we always talk about startups related to growth hacking, but if we take a closer look, a lot of companies are still not experimenting and embracing or implementing the culture of rapid experimentation. What would you say to these companies, and what would your advice be?
You better start. It's easy to say, well, you better start, but like, where do you start? What do you actually do? So probably the first thing that I would say is figure out a common metric that everyone in the company is able to help move. And so that metric, if it's just customer signups, that would probably be like a marketing metric. But if you said value being delivered to customers, something that reflects that. So like for a company like Facebook, those daily active users, when something that really reflects engagement, you start to get into the point where it's not just the marketing team that moves the daily active user number. The product team needs to create a product that's so engaging that people come back on a regular basis. People who start to give up, how do you bring them back? What types of experiments can you run? Where you bring the engineering team and the product team working together to start to create kind of more engagement? How do you onboard people in a way that they actually start to become a more habitual user of a product? When you start to really look at what the surface area of where you could run experiments looks like, you realize that almost every team in the company, maybe not the legal or the finance team, but legal and finance team can definitely get in the way of experiments. So even in that case, even in that case, they're part of the problem or solution. So the more you can get that alignment in how are we actually impacting customers and really impacting the problem that our company has set out to solve, and how can we impact the most number of people possible, then everything else ultimately comes down to now what do we do to make that happen? But if you can identify a key metric that at least measures progress against that, that's a great starting point.
Okay. Since this interview is the only thing that is separating us from the cocktail party, I'm going to wrap it up and ask one more question. Maybe as a last one, people who view this show, they come from all kinds of industries or sizes of company. But the feedback I get all the time is that a lot of cases or stories on growth hacking, they tackle high tech or technology companies here in Silicon Valley or San Francisco. But what would your main advice be to get started? It doesn't matter if from which industry your company is. For example, a B2B company. What would your main advice be to get started and start experimenting?
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of to echo somewhat what I was just saying, like I think the very first thing you need to do is agree on what that successful metric looks like. But from there, how do you actually start to drive the change where you've got the whole company working together to run the experiments? What I found today, for a startup, it's not that hard because they don't have a lot of people who are going to create friction to running those experiments. But if your company has been around for a few years, then you want to have a really deliberate effort where you get all of the key people together for a day, really defining what success looks like and how they're going to work together to drive that success. And so whether that's a workshop, whether that's an offsite that's just led by the CEO, but somehow get everyone on the same page and then start running experiments to where hopefully you can generate enough results that people start to believe in the process and get excited about it.
Okay, amazing, very hands-on, and thanks. So thank you guys for watching. We're gonna enjoy the cocktail party as mentioned, and Sean, thank you for making time for us, and we hope to see you at our conference at the end of the year. So
I hope I
who
can
knows?
make it. If
Okay.
not this year, hopefully next year.
Okay, thanks.